Yes, right now is Michael Oren, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Ambassador Oren, thanks for being with us. How concerned are you about the situation in the West Bank and also along the northern border with Lebanon?
Good evening. Hi. Good to be with you again, always, Anderson. Well, about the recent item you just had with Becky, I would unequivocally condemn settler violence against innocent Palestinians in the West Bank, but let's put it also in context. Roughly 30 Israeli Jews have been massacred by Hamas and other Palestinian extremist youth groups, terrorists in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria since the beginning of the year, including, the mother and two daughters of the D family. So it's not just one-sided here. There's a battle going on there between extremists on both sides, and both of them have to be condemned, and Israel has to defend itself. I'm very concerned about the situation up north. We've talked about it before. The possibility of a multi-front war is a reality, and Hezbollah as a fighting force is roughly 15 times that of Hamas. Hamas maybe has 10 to 15,000 rockets. Hezbollah has 150,000 rockets. Many of which are buried under 200 villages in southern Lebanon. They put the rocket in the living room with the family there. The family is a human shield for that rocket. They have a fighting force which has been fighting on the side of Bashar al-Assad in Syria for 10 years, experience with massacring literally hundreds of thousands of Syrians, a true terrorist group, backed fully by Iran. And what Hezbollah and its leader Hassan Nasrallah has been doing since the outbreak of the war in Gaza has been testing us. They've been shooting mortar shells across the border, some drone activity across the border. They've killed 5 of our soldiers so far, but they haven't unleashed the rockets yet. And the conventional wisdom here among security people is that Hezbollah is waiting to see how Israel advances with its ground incursion into Gaza. And at a certain point where it becomes clear that Hamas will be defeated, that is when Hezbollah will open up with its rockets. The great deterrence will be the presence of these two very large U.S. naval flotillas there, the two U.S. Aircraft carriers, the Eisenhower and the Ford, and the very clear, I think, intention of President Biden and Secretary of State Blinken to say to Iran, to Hezbollah, and I quote them, don't dare. And I think that the president is willing to use force to prevent Hezbollah and Iran from intervening in this war.
Let me ask you about the situation in southern Gaza. Israel has pushed and recommended and urged Palestinians to leave Gaza City, to leave the north, move down to the south to avoid whatever is to come in a ground offensive. UN relief officials we've talked to have said they want to get more supplies in. They're not be able to get enough in. We saw a few trucks with gasoline going in today across the Rafah border. Isn't it in Israel's best interest to build up the capabilities in the south in terms of shelter at the very least, and food and supplies, water for those hundreds of thousands who have already moved? Wouldn't that encourage more to move down to the south?
I would think so. And as a citizen, I'm not a spokesman for the state of Israel anymore, but I would say I would be in favor of relieving some of the human suffering in that area as much as possible. If for no other reason, is because the president and his Secretary of State had asked that. They've asked us to help us by reducing as much as possible the human suffering element in this very tragic situation. Of course, we have no choice but to urge that population to move, because the Israeli army is poised to enter into heavily mined, booby-trapped areas. I mean, as a former infantryman, I will tell you there is no greater nightmare than this scenario. And most of the fighting will not be above ground. It'll be beneath the ground, where Hamas has dug endless kilometers of tunnels and bunkers, all of which are mined and booby-trapped. And Hamas's leadership is under hospitals, under schools. There could be no more nightmare situation. The least we can do is move that population out of there, because if they were to remain there, then the level of civilian casualties would be far, far, far greater. Note that the UN has said that they've had trouble getting supplies across the Egyptian border, okay, not the Israeli border. Why have they talked about the Israeli border? Because the border crossing was destroyed by Hamas. I was in charge of that border crossing. I know it quite well. It's called the Vineyard of Peace, ironically named. Hamas killed the Israelis there. They destroyed the border. They've shelled the area toward the border. There's just no way that Israel could get those supplies through that border crossing.
For just the tunnels, given your experience on the ground in Gaza before and Israel's, the IDF's experience, how effective is this bombardment against those tunnels that Hamas has built?
Very little effectiveness. It's very difficult to destroy tunnels from the air. We've learned that now since 2008, since the first major exchange with Hamas in Gaza, and there almost is no alternative but to send engineering forces underground with explosives to blow them up. And we've tried many things. Israel has developed the world's most advanced tunnel detection technology. We share that technology with Homeland Security. America also faces tunnel challenges on its borders. We have built we have a subterranean metal wall that goes down many meters to block the tunnels from coming into our territory. But here, one of the attacks on one of our bases was undertaken by Hamas terrorists using a tunnel, even with all of these precautions. And to go into these tunnels is to go into an underground labyrinth. And by the way, the tunnels have plenty of electricity, plenty of water. There's no shortage of anything. It is, as I've said often to you, Anderson, I was in charge of Gaza, and I'll tell you, everything you learn about human nature, human kindness, and goodness, you got to throw out the window when you're dealing with Hamas. They're completely, completely different. They will use their people as human shields. They use the hostages as human shields. They will even shell their own people, and I think they have already. It's nothing that you and I could possibly understand. I was listening to your report before about the visit to the killing field of that former rave concert, and I haven't quite, as they say, I haven't gotten it together. I don't know how you do it. Totally, just so disturbing, nightmarish. That's what we're dealing with Hamas. We have to defend ourselves against that.
Yeah, Michael Oren, former ambassador. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Stay with CNN.